Adam Back, you're either senile or you're a liar yourself. Which is it? Hey everyone, time for another lesson on the history of Bitcoin because lots of people don't seem to be aware of it. So there's some guy on Twitter, Bitcoin Meme Hub. Okay, his job is to make memes to get people riled up. So like here he is, I saw one yesterday. Says, I paid $1,000 in fees for a single transaction in the Bitcoin network more times than I can count. Someone please teach Roger Ver how to set custom wallet fees. And so he has this little quote you can hear.
See, like, I paid $1,000 in fees for a single transaction on the Bitcoin network more times than I can count.
And so I think I said that, I don't know, 48 hours ago, like I said that. So now I was in reference to like the end of 2017 when the blocks became full and there was this giant disaster on top of Bitcoin for anybody that was running business. And like Bitcoin Meme Hub, you know, he makes memes about me and other people all day long. Like, I get it. He's there to like poke jabs at people. But here, right below him, responding to him, we have Adam Back, one of the co-founders of Blockstream, someone who's been around since 2013 when Bitcoin hit $1,000 for the first time. He decided to get involved in Bitcoin, even though Satoshi sent him an email letting him know before the project even launched, and he ignored it. So it wasn't until it hit $1,000 that he decided to get involved. But here he goes. Adam Back says he's lying for what it's worth. It was some stupendous amount of thousands of dust transactions packaged up as one transaction and grossly overpaid on top. So here's my question to Adam Back. Adam, are you going senile in your old age? Or are you intentionally lying? Because the data is right there on the blockchain for anyone to take a look at. And I'm going to pull it up right here, and I'm going to show the world that either you're the liar or you're just plain senile at this point. So here we go. We have this handy dandy website called blockchair.com. And down here we can search, right, by all the different things here. And so one of the things you can search for is by the amount of fee that somebody paid, right? And so right here we can choose whatever fee. So we can do greater than or equal to $1,000, less than or equal to $1,000, like whatever amount we want. So in this case, why don't we do, we'll say that we're looking for anything that's less than or equal to, we'll call it $2,000, right? You know what? Let's call it $5,000, right? So we'll do, hit enter and wait for that to go. And now it's thinking as fast as it can. So here we go. So here's a bunch of transactions we can see where the fee paid for this transaction was just under $5,000, right? And we can see that the size of the transaction, 51 kilobytes, 61 kilobytes, whatever, which is big, right? And if you look, all these transactions that are paying high fees have lots of inputs, right? But this isn't dust we're talking about, right? The total amount of money sent here was $3.2 million, right? So they had to pay $5,000 to send $3.2 million. The bank will do it cheaper for you than that. And so it's worth pointing out here, this one's a little bit strange with a whole bunch of inputs and a whole bunch of outputs. Maybe that's a cash shuffle or coin join privacy preserving transaction. But this very next one right here, 460 inputs and 2 outputs. They sent $6.5 million and they paid just under $5,000 in fees. Heck, that could have even been my transaction. I don't know or remember it at this point, but Adam's saying it's an insane amount of dust. Is $6.5 million, is that dust, right, with 460 transactions? Let's do the math and see what that works out to. So $6.5 million divided by 460 transactions. Each input has $14,000, right? Each input's $14,000. That's not dust. That's real commerce happening there. And so like, let's talk about what's going on there. 460 inputs and 2 outputs. What sort of transaction would that be? Any business, right? Think about it. Every business, almost every business, they accept a bunch of small payments from their customers, and then they send out big payments to their suppliers, right? So you have things like, you know, Costco. They have a bunch of people coming in there all day long buying a bunch of different things, and then at the end of the week or the end of whenever, Costco sends one big giant payment to their suppliers for wherever they're buying their stuff from, right? Or multiple, you know, large payments. They certainly don't send out as many payments as they have coming in each day, and that's how just about any business is, right? Here's another one: 519 payments in, right? 2 outputs, right? One output is whoever you're paying. The second one's probably the change. And again, they paid just under $5,000, right? And so this one's a little bit smaller, but $26,000, even $26,000, right? Divided by 519 inputs. And so it's $50 an input. So maybe this guy, you know, he's selling whatever widgets for $50, right? And he got 519 customers, paid him $50, right? Like, that's reasonable. So to move this guy's $16,000, right? He had to spend almost $5,000. Like, that's just got to be gut wrenching for whoever, you know, owns that much money, right? He had 20 grand, but he only wound up, or he had 16 grand and only wound up with 11 grand at the end of this transaction, right? And if you look at this though, look at the time of all these transactions, right? Right at the end of 2017, when the network was having a big giant problem because the blocks were full, and anybody running any sort of business, any sort of exchange, anybody selling anything that actually has some customers was paying this sort of fees, right? And if you look at the fee per kilobyte, right? So it's all, 96, it's all within that same sort of range here. But here, let's find one where the math is kind of easy, right? Where the total transaction, let's find one where it's about 100 kilobytes for the transaction here. So here's one, it's almost exactly 50 kilobytes, right? So you can see it had 292 inputs. It was paying $168,000 total. They paid almost $5,000 in fees, right? So, and then the fee per kilobyte there, at the time, there it is. It was $97 per kilobyte. So, and let's see if that was in line with the other transactions that were in the block at that time, right? So it's 50 kilobytes. That's about 1/20th of the block size at that point. So if we go here and we click on this block, we'll open it. So we can see right here, the 12.5 Bitcoin was the block reward, and that block paid 11.2 Bitcoins in fees, right? And then the total block size for this particular block was just over 1 megabyte, right? So we'll call it 21 times 50 kilobytes, right? So now what we'll do here is we'll take a look. The total fees there paid, right, were 11.2. And you know what? Let's pull up this this block in a block explorer that's a little bit easier to read for me because I'm used to the blockchain.com explorer. So here's that exact same block that we're looking at here on the blockchain.com explorer. And they make it so easy. So you can see the block was just over 1 megabyte, and there were 11.2 Bitcoins in fees. And the value of those fees, right, if we click here, so we can see the value of the fees on this particular block here was $79,000, right? So this guy that we were looking at, he paid just under $5,000, and he had about 1/21th of the total block size. So he had, so we'll multiply 21 times 5,000, right? So for his portion of the block space, right, he paid a little bit more than the total block space that was there that other people paid, right? But when you don't know if you're like a giant transaction for tens of thousands or millions of dollars are going to go through, you'll pay whatever to get it in the block because people were terrified at that point. So we can go and take a look at some of these other transactions here. Let's find another one, and we'll do the same sort of math here again. Look at this. Like they're all paying thousands of dollars in fees here. We can see fees, right? $5,000. And this goes on. It's not just one or two. There's thousands and thousands of them, right? So there's 4 million results of transactions that were less than 5,000. Maybe we can put a range even here and have it be less than 5,000 and more than $1,000, right? And let's see how many different times somebody paid between $1,000 and $5,000 in the blockchain. 25,000 times, right? That's not a one-off transaction in which somebody paid that sort of a crazy amount, right? This was happening all the time. I'm going to narrow this down to make it even closer to the transaction that I was referencing there. So we'll do we will do fee in US dollars, right? So we'll do between 900, right, less than or equal to 900, and I'm sorry, greater than or equal to 900 and less than or equal to 1,100. And that'll give us ones all in about the ballpark of $1,000, right? So within $100 in either way. So we can see here they are, right? So there's over 8,000 transactions that are in that range. And you can see, again, they're all at the end of 2017 or the beginning of 2018 when the fee market was going crazy, right? And so we can see, again, these aren't crazy wild transactions, right? Like, so any transaction you see with a bunch of inputs and 2 outputs or 3 outputs, that's something that's just a regular old normal transaction where a business received a bunch of payments from customers and then they're paying somebody else out there, right? And so if we look here on the right, let's pick, whatever, there's 8,000 of them we can pick from here, but we'll pick one that's, nice and simple here that's about, 50 kilobytes. Here we go. This one's about 100 kilobytes, right? So you can see this one has 655 inputs and 2 outputs, right? So they were moving $110,000 and it cost them $1,100 in fees, right? And if we go and look at that specific block here, we'll open it in the blockchain.info explorer, so we can see that particular block, right? The block was a little over 1 megabyte, right, including the witness data. The block reward was 12.5 Bitcoin, and the fee is 0.3 for that one. So this one, let's see what's going on there. So 0.3, and if we go and convert this one to dollars, so you can see it was $2,158 at that particular point was the total amount of fees. This guy had about 1/10 of the block reward. So compared to everybody else, he should have paid $250 in that particular block. But again, at the time that was happening, let's look at the date for this, right? This is later into 2018, the fees were calming down, and like this was all new to the whole ecosystem. Like so many people didn't have wallets that you can set the fees, manually back then. This was an absolute giant disaster, right? So you can see here again, there were more than 8,000 different transactions where the fees were between $900 and $1,100. Those aren't all me, some of those were me, but these were all people all around the world. You had 8,000 people making transactions, or 8,000 transactions made by people there that are all obviously unhappy. They're saying, I'm paying $1,000 to move my Bitcoin. Why would I ever use this? This is not the money of the future. And Lightning Network doesn't work for big payments. There's not enough liquidity on the channels. There's another company I invested in. They turned into a bunch of BTC Lightning maximalists, and they were really mad that I was speaking out about the stupid roadmap, and so they said they wanted to buy out my equity from when I invested probably 100 or 200 Bitcoin back in the early days of Bitcoin when they weren't worth as much. And I said, sure, you can buy my equity out. What price do you want to pay me? And they said a price. I said, okay, fine. My only requirement is that you pay me with a Lightning Network. And then they said, oh, that's not possible. And I said, yeah, I know it's not possible. So why the hell are you busy advocating everyone use the Lightning Network when you can't even use it for big payments, right? And the big ones, like, look at these. People are paying $1,000. There's more than 8,000 of them. So like, back to what inspired me to make this video, Adam Back. You're either senile or you're a liar yourself. Which is it? So you can either, if you're senile, I feel bad for you and I'm sorry that's happening to you. I hope you can get some good medical treatment. If you're a liar on purpose, you should apologize to me and the rest of the world because you've done an amazing job either through your ignorance or through your stupidity or your senility at delaying the adoption of Bitcoin around the entire world and delaying the adoption of cryptocurrencies around the world because you didn't have enough vision to understand how important Bitcoin was. When you got invited by Satoshi himself to get involved with the project before it even launched, and instead you waited until it was more than $1,000 each due to the effort of people like me still wearing my Bitcoin shirt to this very day. So Adam, man, if you're senile, I feel sorry for you, and I hope you get the medical treatment you need. If you're a liar, you need to apologize to the world for the damage you've done. So that's it. And then here's the other people you need to apologize. If we go down in the Twitter feed a little bit more, this guy says, Evan Rose says, we settle transactions at Bitcoin ATM often more than 100 inputs, right? Because any business is getting lots of inputs in kilobytes, and we have paid 1 Satoshi per byte for the last 2 years without any issues. Well, I'm recording this in April of 2020, right? So 2 years ago, the fee crisis was already over. Notice he doesn't say within the last 3 years because he knows damn well he had to pay a whole bunch more than that at the end of 2017 when this was happening. So, and then we have this other guy here. He says that he purposely let stack up to make Bitcoin look bad. So sick of his disgusting methods to try and fight Bitcoin and get Bcash to succeed. Roger Cavier did so much for Bitcoin early on, but is actually erasing all of that good karma with the way he's handling Bcash. So this guy, Crypto Rocky, he's just plain been fooled by crypto Twitter, or he's not paying attention for himself. It's what possible financial incentive could I possibly had to complain about Bitcoin not working for payments? The only thing I had is that it's actually stopped working. It doesn't work for businesses, right? And so here, the Bitcoin privateer, Bitcoin Judas, right? These are people that are literally being fooled by the either ignorance. It can't be ignorance from Adam. So either he's going senile in his old age, or he's intentionally lying to the world. And he does have a financial motivation to lie about this, right? He started Blockstream, right? Blockstream makes a bunch of money if Bitcoin is crippled because then everybody has to use his liquid sidechain and pay Blockstream a fee on all of that. So Adam Back has a giant financial incentive to cripple Bitcoin, so everybody has to use the product made by his company. Whereas my gigantic financial incentive was for everybody in the entire world to use Bitcoin as money all over the world and to allow it to scale to become money for the world. So if you just purely look at the financial incentives, Adam Back has a financial incentive to lie about the scalability of Bitcoin. I have a financial incentive to tell the truth about the scalability of Bitcoin, right? Because if I tell the truth and everybody starts using it as money for the world, I would make a bunch of money. If I lie and say that Bitcoin can still be money for the world, and it turned out it wasn't true, it just still destroys the value of all my Bitcoins when people figure out that I was lying about that. So my incentive was to tell the truth, and I've been telling the truth to this very day, even after I sold a bunch of my Bitcoin to buy other coins because of the stupid scalability issue caused by people with a financial incentive to create a problem on Bitcoin like Adam Back. So I don't think he's senile. I think he's doing what he's financially incentivized to do, which has been to cripple Bitcoin and basically retard the entire world's rate of economic growth to line his own pockets. That's what's happened. If you appreciate me speaking the truth to all these people out there, go and share this message and tell a friend and start using Bitcoin Cash, because that's the cryptocurrency that has the ability to bring more economic freedom to the world right now, today. So thank you all so much. See you in the next video. Share this one today, please. Thank you.